Hey everyone, I am Matt. I am one of the developers at Bidlo, and we are going to start doing weekly or maybe twice a month explainer of what we're seeing in terms of this technology and ML and the space we're in, touching on big concepts and how we, Bidlo, are thinking of these two heavy civil public works construction. So one of the ones I wanted to start with is an idea of looping that has been top of mind for a lot of people lately, a lot of activity on Twitter for this. Anthropic put out actually a really interesting article about this concept, and we 100% believe is the direction things are going, and we don't think all of the users have caught up to thinking about using agents or using LLMs in this way. So they put together a really good article here, and I wanted to go through that and explain it in the context of heavy civil construction. And we'll use an example of bid bond form, super generic, super low level. I think everyone can get behind that, understand that. And we'll use it in the context of we are building organizations around this looping architecture, if you will. So in the past, if you were going to fill out, let's say, a bid bond form, the way it was being used was I am a person. I am filling out this form. I have question 1 on this form, the liquidated damages on this project. I will go ask the agent, like, where's this information? Or better yet, pull this information out of the plans for me. And you'll get that information, then you enter it into the form. So where this has next is I want to just take myself out of that loop. Am I filling out the form and the agent's capable of doing it? So I'm going to go ahead and ask the agent, can you go ahead and fill this form out? Through the form, figure out each question and take that information out of the plans and enter it into the form for me. And then when you're done, give me the final form, the final bid bond form. So that, again, automating a little more of the process. Then we get into what do you do next? Once the agent gives you all this information, you go check it against the plans to see if is the liquidated damages correct? Are the working days correct? So the natural progression there is to say, am I checking that? Can I not ask another agent to then go review this first agent's work? So that's another place that we can apply agent. So now the agent fills out this form. It kicks off another agent to go check this form. So you now, as a human, you can kick it off. And once it's all done getting filled out and reviewed, you can review the responses there. So that's great, but there's still a human in the loop. And what you're starting to see, I think, in a trend in what I'm saying is what we're trying to get to is take the human out of the loop. Why do you have a human involved in filling out the bid bond form at all? So the next step there is, well, why don't we scale that? Why don't we say, instead of for each project that I'm on, end of the week, I look at here's everything on my bid schedule. Just tell an agent, hey, go ahead and out all the bid bond forms for all of these projects and review them, and then save them to the project that they're on. So now we're taking something that you would have to do as a human in series and doing it in parallel, where you're saying, kick off this activity. It can do, you spin up a sub agent for every single one of those projects. Let's say there's 5 projects on your bid sheet. All 5 of those in parallel are having their bid bond form filled out, reviewed, and added to the projects as a 5. So that is where we are today in terms of this form here. We're currently at this example. And that's really where a lot of software developers are in their industry, or legal experts are in their industry, where there is a human in the loop still. And as long as there is a human in that loop, you're the bottleneck. You as the human are the bottleneck. So there's been a big push recently to remove the human wherever possible and push for just a loop that takes care of itself. So you as a human do not have to be a blocker on any of this stuff. So an example of that would be, and throw some examples in their article as well, this idea of, I don't ever want to check or think of a bid bond form again. In fact, I'm just going to worry about what projects I add to my bid list. And when a project gets added to the bid list, or maybe every 5 minutes or so, an agent is checking my bid list and is saying, does it have a bid bond form? And if not, I'm going to go ahead and fill that out and also view it. And you can see where we're going here. It can be a lot more than just a bid bond form. There's a million different forms and requests for subs or quotes or anything. A lot of busy work that needs to get done the moment you decide that you're going to bid a project. And all of that can be kicked off and automated by these agents and then reviewed by these agents, so that at the end of the day, you sign in the next day at coffee, you're looking at your screen. The agents are saying, here's all the work I've done. I've gone ahead and taken this to the absolute possible max. And you as the user or the human can now review all of that information. So you haven't blocked the process at all. You're just sitting there deciding, was this good or was this bad? And if it's bad, we can adjust the loop. Now, Anthropic is specifically talking about this in the context of recursive learning for their agent can teach themselves. And this is just an example of in their workflow, they're removing the human from that. And they've taken this to the next extreme where they say, this is very dangerous. We're reaching that point. And they've called for more government intervention. And I'll touch on that in a second. But we are 100% convinced that that's how you should be thinking of applying these to your daily workflow in our space of the construction world. And we're working with obviously all of our customers to do that, to start thinking that way. So let's talk ecosystem too. The ramifications of this are that I'm sure you saw that Fable, which is Anthropic's most capable model, has been pushed out or been rolled back from the general public. It was made available to the general public. It was already a much lobotomized version of the Mythos private model that only exclusive people can get exclusive, or whitelisted companies can get exclusive access to. So Fable was a step down from that. It had a lot of safeguards, and that was released to the general public. And then the general public, it was rolled back. The administration, the Trump administration, issued an order that they need to roll that back and remove public access. And that came from essentially a bunch of Amazon engineers could claim that they were able to escape or get around those safeguards, which it may or may not be true. I think a lot of what we're seeing right now with the U.S. models are there's a lot of just politics and marketing at play here. I thought Fable was fantastic. I played with it for a little bit. It is a very, very good model. It is marginally better than GPT 5.5 on extra high. I think there's politics with, you have Amazon, who is another player in this space, not necessarily in the LLM, but in the infrastructure space. And then you have a lot of activity with just a lot of the players in general. So I wouldn't read too much into this. I think a lot of these models are super capable. I do think we've reached some form of AGI. It's just a lot of the harnesses or the environments that these models have to run in order to do the work you do have not caught up to the model's capabilities. And I think that's just what we're seeing is a lot of marketing, a lot of noise. It's a tool. It's a good tool. It's not going to completely change destroy the world in a day, at least not yet. But the marketing, the stuff about needing to roll back the model or whatnot, that's all marketing. Another big talking point in the kind of AI space or ecosystem is the idea of China is slowly catching up, if not surpassing the US in terms of model capability. So right now, the leading models or leading labs are going to be Anthropic and OpenAI. And you're familiar with GPT and Desktop or Claude for Work or their products. They are still best in class, but China has made great strides in terms of catching up with the US. And what's astonishing is what they've been able to do with so much less compute. So their models are significantly more efficient, and they're all open source, meaning the model weights are released online, and you or I could, if we had the hardware, we could go run these models. And very recently, ZAI released the GLM 5.2 model, which is, if the benchmarks are to be believed, it's underneath or in the lower end of the ballpark of the leading GPT, or OpenAI and Anthropic models. And what's incredible here is that it is an open source model, meaning if I have the hardware, can go run this, and I have near, maybe not quite, but close to the same level of capabilities as the models I have to pay to use from Anthropic and OpenAI. Now, I think naturally, this is where the industry is going to eventually go. It is the case with software and software's peak industry in the sense that the models that come out, or the software that gets written, eventually makes its way to an open source version, meaning anyone can take it and host it. That is where these models are going to go. And that can honestly be a very scary thought, knowing that anybody could eventually they have the Fable 5 or Mythos level capabilities, and they're able to run it without any safeguards. But that is where this is eventually going to go. So it's inevitable that I think this stuff goes open source. I think China catching up to the US is less a product of them, not to undermine what they've done. What they've done has been incredible even with all the limitations that have been placed on their compute capabilities. But I think that's just naturally where this industry is going to go. And I think Anthropic and OpenAI are feeling that. So they obviously have shareholders, and now in some cases, them all filing for IPOs are beholden to the success of the business. I think, unfortunately for them, they are plateauing in terms of the model capabilities. It's really the harnesses and the environments that these models are being placed in that are making the difference in terms of how good these models are. And because they're plateauing, that is why you see China catching up to the US. And that is why it's big marketing and news cycles around Fable being pulled and whatnot. So my point here is not to say that anything's doing anything malicious, but just read the headlines for what they are, headlines. They're trying to stir up a lot of excitement around this stuff. China is not surpassing the US. It's just the fact that these models are slowly hitting limits to what they can do. A lot of the innovation that's being put out right now and why these models seem to be getting better and better is not because the model themselves are necessarily getting better and better, but the environments and the tools that are available to them are getting better and better. And yeah, we'll keep an eye on all of this. We're looking at how we can apply this more to what we're doing at Bidlo and what we're doing for you guys. And if you have any questions or anything you want to know more about, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one of these.